I'm going to stand up, that's the 5 minute warning. Great.
Yeah. It will be like 3 hours' time you'll be standing up, isn't it? Yeah. That's how long I'd need on. I'd actually need a whole day on the subject that I'm dealing with. But anyway, 20 minutes. Yeah. This is me. My name up there, Brian Glass, training manager at Changes East Lothian. We're a small mental health charity. Just deal with East Lothian itself. However, the training that I do is Scotland's mental health first aid. And I know there's an English version and there is a Welsh version as well. Are there any other mental health first aid trainers around? Oh, look at that, eh? It's about half the room, that's not bad. Yeah, it's cool. We do an important job. Absolutely. However, it's not just Scotland's mental health first aid training I do applied suicide intervention skills training, the ASSIST course from Living Works in Canada, along with Safe Talk training. Again, those two are suicide prevention courses. But it's not just that I do. I also take into anywhere I can get into looking after yourself. So you might call it resilience sort of training. You might talk about mental health and well-being training. It's a very, very important topic. And I've been doing that now for roughly about 12 years. And it's changed massively. Natalie, it's Natalie, isn't it? Yeah, she's not here anymore, unfortunately, but she's seen a lot of change in her stuff around technology and all the rest of it. We've seen a vast amount of change in dealing with the mental health illnesses that are about, and I will go with one particular psychiatrist who effectively said that we've learned more in the last 10 years than we have in the previous 100, thanks to technology. See, I've gone completely off script already, you know, it's just brilliant. It's what I do, it's how it goes, but here's the thing, because of MRI scans, here's two little tips for you for mental health first aid trainers. Because of MRI scans, we know that people with depression, you know how when you see people's brains, they're all multicoloured and they're brilliant and they're fantastic? People with depression have large areas in the brain that are black, completely dark. When it comes to things like psychosis, and schizophrenia in particular, where they're hearing voices and seeing things that aren't there or that we can't see anyway, because actually for them they're absolutely there. What they now worked out is that, well, when they're seeing things that we're not seeing, their eyes are all working. All the messages are going from the eyes to the brain that deals with it, converts the messages and backwards. So what they're seeing is absolutely real for them. It's not a figment of people's imagination. It's absolutely spot on real. When it comes to hearing voices or sounds, the parts of the brain that control the ear are working, so's the voice box. So the voice box is giving them exactly what they're hearing. So they actually hear voices. It's not like us thinking about, you know, we all have arguments with ourselves in our own head, you know, and all the rest of it, our own voices and all those kind of things. It's not like that at all. They are actually hearing voices. And they've only discovered that because of MRI scans. And that's fascinating. It's brilliant. It means that we can actually explain to people around those mental health sort of things that it's not just all in our head. It's there. It's reality for that person. So there's a free tip for you. Anyway, what else was I going to do? Well, they actually invited me along here and they gave me a very, very specific sort of thing to sort of do. First of all, why do we need mental health first aid training? Then it's about what was my experience of delivering it. And then it's about where do I see the future going? And that's probably going to be the best bit, but it's last. So Corey will cut me off, you know. Come and see me after the one, I'll talk to you, no problem. So here's why we need it, okay? Around 1 in 4 people in the UK as a whole. Now, pre-COVID, In Scotland, it used to be 1 in 3, which meant worse. No, that doesn't better. Just because it's a smaller number, that was worse, not better. But actually, just before COVID hit, it went back up to 1 in 4. It was about a couple of years it was 1 in 3, which was scary. But that's the way it goes. 1 in 5 people will take a day off due to stress. But 90% of those people will say something else. Stress is just a posh word for anxiety. And it's not the anxiety that you have that's normal. The wee amygdala is there to keep us safe and all the rest of it, and introduces our fight-flight reflex, basically. But if we have stress, yeah, a little bit of stress is good, but persistence and ongoing stress is actually an illness. Or it can cause an illness. It leads you into mental illness, like anxiety as an illness, as opposed to just normal anxiety. And it'll also lead you into depression. And then having those two could actually then lead you into psychosis. This is the problem when you have a mental illness. And that's the thing that I didn't say when I introduced myself, because here's one of the things. I have a mental illness. I've got 2. And it's depression and anxiety. They're constant companions. But I know how to manage them. And by the way, I'm standing up here in front of about 130 people. Anxiety? What's that? You know? Yeah, put me in a social situation with you guys, so lunchtime is going to be really difficult for me. That's what happens. That's the way it goes. But it doesn't interfere that much with my life now, whereas it did when it first developed. And this is the thing about mental health first aid, and why it's important is because we know if we get in early enough, we can stop what is a difficulty becoming an illness. And as we all know, prevention is actually better than cure. And as far as the finances are concerned, it's also cheaper. But we kind of miss it all, and nobody does this, and it's very weird. Anything to do with the word mental just sort of like kind of sets people going, no, can't talk about that, can't do that. I'll talk about it till the cows come home. Sorry, Corey. In 2018-19, stress, depression or anxiety were responsible for 44% of all work case illnesses. And yet we don't have any kind of legislation that says you have to have a mental health first aider in your business. And I'll say it once, and I'll say it in a long time, and I'll keep saying it and all the rest of it. I'll guarantee you, if you have a mental health first aider in your workplace, they'll be busier than you are physical. I've been a physical first aid trainer since 2010. Not trainer. I've been physically first aid trained since 2010. I've used the skills once in my career in business, in the actual workplace. I've used it twice personally, but that's 3 times over 14 years. I do mental health first aid. I know I work in the sector and all the rest of it, but I've done it far more. And pre-COVID and just during COVID as well, probably about once a week at least, if not more. And we don't have it legislated for. It's not a requirement in a workplace, but it's absolutely necessary. 72 million working days lost, that'll tell you. You know, look at the statistics, look at the cost. Some reputable researchers will get you 74 to 99, but even then, £34.9 billion a year. That's huge. It makes financial sense. Yeah? And that's before we get to anything like the personal cost for the people who are ill. Yeah. And presenteeism. Does anybody know what presenteeism actually is? Some people do, getting some nods of the head. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's going to work when you're ill and not able to actually work. When it comes to mental illness, what happens with people is they go to work because they don't recognise they're ill and they produce less And they spend a lot more time at work because they can't actually produce as much as they used to, and they're trying their best to. And actually the quality of their work is not anywhere near where they should be, when they should not, and they shouldn't be at it. Because most people don't actually know when they're mentally unwell in the early stages. They can't see the signs, they can't spot the signs. So that's what we do in mental health first aid training. That's the next slide that's going to come, but that's fine. Scotland specific, 12% of individuals noticed in 2018-19 having 2 or more symptoms of depression, and then 14% of individuals noted of having 2 or more symptoms of anxiety. And that's a lot of people. In England, 1 in 6 aged 16 plus experienced symptoms of depression or anxiety, and in the surveys between July 2019 and March 2020, the prevalence was 10%. Now it's up at 21, 22%. Then it went back down to 16%. So COVID accounted for that. COVID was not good for our mental health, right across the board. But when the statistics have fallen again, they've not gone anywhere near where they were before. Has everybody got the message? We need mental health first aid training. It's a pity the government can't get that, you know. Yeah, I'm quite critical of that. So why is it important here? Here we go. The brain and the body are absolutely inextricably linked. They can't separate them. Very much in the West, we went down a road of separating them entirely, whereas in the East, they deal with the whole body and the whole people. That's the way to do it. Because the brain, the brain is an organ in the body, the same as the heart, the lungs, and the liver. If the heart, lungs, and the liver can get sick, so can the brain. Problem with the brain is it's got no pain receptors. So it can't tell you when it's sick. It has to let other bits of your body know. So this is a crucial thing. And as being mentally health first aid trained, you can spot those signs that the people give off. It's important. And that bottom one there, most people don't pretend to have depression or anxiety. They actually pretend to be well. And that takes up far more energy than just being normal. It's huge. So people who are pretending to be well will sleep a heck of a lot more because they are exhausted. And that also means that they don't end up, they end up not looking after themselves. That's crucial. Yeah. There's the aims. There's 4 words of a difference. Of good mental health. That's all. And the aims are absolutely identical. So, why can't the authorities work out that it's actually equally important? Bizarre. Anyway, what we teach, there you go, what the symptoms are. How to recognise those symptoms in people, including yourself. Self-awareness is massive, it's huge. How do we react to them? How do we deal with a person? It's just, are you recognising some of the physical first aid stuff, How to provide that initial help and get them to professional help. That's what we do. That's how we do it. My experience in delivery, I'm going to say it's exactly the same because I'm not physically first aid trained to be a trainer. But I'll tell you, my experience is probably exactly the same as yours. Satisfying, rewarding, humbling. It really is. You can watch people go from having absolutely no knowledge at all about what mental illness is and going, well, I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't want to do anything anyway, to I'm going to go. And actually, if I do that with one of the things, there's one down there, this course has ignited a passion for wanting to learn more about mental health and using that going forward. As a teacher, because that's what we are as trainers, we're teachers, giving people or inspiring people, you can't get any better than that. It's massive. That's the pinnacle. But that's the range of my feedback. Well, no, it's my it's of course feedback I've got from my first delivery of mental health first aid in 2015 to just finishing a course last week for another bunch of people. And that, I would say, is about 99% of my feedback. Something like that. I always maintain you really have to suck as a trainer to get really bad feedback for it. You know, you really do. It works it for itself. You know, it's so enlightening. However, it doesn't mean to say that the training can't be improved, or I can't improve my training. I've still got 1% to go. You know, that's the way it goes. However, I'm going to throw this in because becoming a trainer's got massively more difficult than it was when it first started. The cost value in England is just absolute. I'm sorry, I haven't got any Welsh ones. I didn't think Welsh. See, I was told Scotland and north of England, so I didn't think Wales counted for that. But sorry, guys. Go do the research. It's there. You know, it's case like $2,500 per person to be a trainer. That's what it costs you. There is an annual registration fee, although they don't put that on the website, so I couldn't find it. There's no info on when they are actually run, the T4Ts. Delivery is face-to-face, and there's no restrictions or mental health experience. And now you have specific criteria to be accepted. And according to the criteria of the website, because I was curious, I went on to try and see if I could become an English mental health first aid trainer, because actually, tell you, the content that's covered and all the rest of it is better than the Scottish one. Trust me on that one. It hurt to say that, but anyway. Now, to be an English mental health first aid trainer, you can only get trained to deliver it if you are working in an organisation that is going to deliver it to the organisation. So what they're doing is looking to create trainer for trainers to train other people in the same organisation to be a first aid trainers. That tells me they've got probably far too many English mental health first aid trainers, in their opinion. But it makes it very difficult for anyone. There's other sectors that you can deliver to, but you have to be working in organisations to do that. It's quite scary. Corey stood up. I've got 5 minutes. That's scary. In Scotland, T4T costs free, no annual fee, no info on the courses to be run, because they just run them ad hoc. That's the problem. That's the training for trainer stuff. The delivery is face-to-face. Actually, they've brought in a little bit of an online one for them, so that's quite good. And then you must have experience of a mental illness or worked in mental health, so that's going to restrict an awful lot of people. And you can lose good trainers from that, which is kind of an issue. But, however, the number of amounts of feedback I usually get for actually sharing my story at times, I don't do it all the time, but sharing my story at times, absolutely huge. It means so much for the people that are actually sitting there getting trained. So, future, massive collaboration. Basically, if you are first aid providers or trainers or individual mental health first aid trainers and all the rest of it, we need to combine. We need to do that and put it in. So my encouragement is to actually go find mental health first aid trainers in your area. See if you can find them. You should be able to contact them via the mental health first aid network that is accessible through both the websites. And it's probably going to be the only way going forward. So if you want to offer the whole suite of training, go find some trainers. That's the only way it's going to happen. It really is the only way it's going to happen. Far as future forward, well, my big bugbear is that in 2019, the top 50 businesses in the country wrote a letter to Theresa May and said, can we have mental health first aid mandated the same way as physical first aid? And she went, yeah. And then Boris happened. And now it's gone, it's disappeared again, and it's vanished. So we have the ability. There are a lot of mental health first aid trainers here. We have the ability to go and encourage business and organisations to actually get their first aid trainers in there. But we also have the ability to promote the business case to anyone and everyone that it should be mandated the same as physical first aid. That means the same number of people. As you have physical first aiders in businesses, you can have the other ones. Mental health first aid. And I'll guarantee the mental health first aid trainers will be, trained people will be busier. That's my contact details. Notice there's no phone number up there. I train lots. Getting hold of me is quite difficult. Drop me an email if you want to talk about lots and lots of things. Absolutely fine. No problem. Go have a look at Changes website, see what we offer. Especially for people who are suffering. But we only do that for East Lothian, I'm afraid. So no other kind of thing around that. And I'm going to stop that there. But one thing I do want to say. There's a very important part that I include in mental health first aid training that's not officially there. And that's about encouraging people to look after your own mental health. It's massive. It doesn't take much. But from what I've been told about the people here, a lot of you working on your own, massively overstretched with paperwork and all the rest of it, stuff like that, and doing and throwing yourself into it. Well, there's a nice meme that goes around the internet at the moment. It basically says, you can't pour from an empty cup. If our cup of our internal resources is empty, how are you going to, you can go for a little while, and then you break quite spectacularly, mentally. You need to look after yourselves. You need to do the good stuff. Now that good stuff, in a short presentation, I do a whole hour on this stuff basically in itself, but the short work is, whatever it is that normally lifts your mood and makes you feel good, you go home and do it. It's that simple. It's not difficult. Some people, it's called self-care, and it's not a nice to have. It's essential. If you don't look after yourself, you can't look after other people. You will break, and break quite spectacularly. I did. Wasn't good. It's not pretty. It takes a long time to recover from that. So to stop it in the first place, you just go and do the stuff that lifts your mood, makes you feel good. That's it. Your brain will then give you all the nice chemicals that naturally alleviate anxiety and depression. That's what it does. So that's what to do tonight. Does that make sense? Yeah? Right, last word. We've got... See, I got him. Last word. We have the knowledge. We have the contacts. We have the power. We can make things change. Let's go out, influence people, and tell them that mental health first aid is just as important as physical first aid. Thank you.